My wife threw my laptop and accused me of cheating after I suggested she quit her stressful job to rest, then revealed her proof was seeing me with a younger woman who turned out to be my own stepdaughter. I thought my wife Monica, 44F, and I, 46M, had a decent marriage. Not perfect, but solid enough that I never saw this coming. I met Monica when I was getting out of the military. I had taken a medical discharge after an injury that required surgery and physical rehab. She was working as a physical therapist at the VA hospital where I was recovering. We started talking during my sessions, and after I was discharged from the program, I asked her out. She told me up front that she had a daughter, Lenora, who was 6 at the time. Lenora's father had moved to Australia for work and wasn't really in the picture beyond occasional video calls and birthday cards with some cash. I didn't mind. I'd always wanted kids anyway. Those early years were good. I was going back to school on the GI Bill, studying computer science. Monica worked full-time while I was in classes, and I'd pick up Lenora from school and help her with homework. By the time Lenora was 8, she started calling me Dad. Her biological father didn't object. He'd basically checked out by then, just sending money every few months. I legally adopted Lenora when she was 10. That was one of the best days of my life. After I graduated, I got a job as a software developer. The pay was decent, and it kept getting better as I moved up. Monica kept working because she loved her job and we wanted to save money. We talked about having more kids, but it didn't happen. Monica had some medical issues in her early 30s that required a procedure, and after that, biological children weren't really an option for us. We talked about adoption or fostering, but Lenora was getting older and needed our attention, so we shelved it. Lenora's in college now. She's studying biology at a state school about an hour away. She comes home most weekends because she likes her old room and our dog. She's a good kid. Never gave us any real trouble. About a year and a half ago, things started changing with Monica. The pandemic had been rough on healthcare workers, and Monica's workplace had been understaffed and chaotic. She came home exhausted most nights. She started snapping at me over small things like dishes in the sink or forgetting to move the laundry. I chalked it up to work stress. Then she started snapping at Lenora too, criticizing everything from her major to her clothes to how much time she spent on her phone. I work from home now, and my salary is enough to support both of us comfortably. About 4 months ago, I suggested Monica take some time off work. Maybe quit for a year or two and just rest. We could afford it. She didn't react well. She said I was trying to control her. I backed off and didn't bring it up again for a while. 6 weeks ago, I tried again. Lenora had come home for the weekend and Monica had barely spoken to her. Lenora left Sunday afternoon looking miserable. That night, I sat Monica down and told her I was worried about her. I said she seemed burned out and maybe she should think about taking a leave of absence. I told her we'd be fine financially. She exploded. She started yelling that she knew what I was really doing. She said she had proof that I was cheating on her. She said she knew I wanted her out of the house so I could bring my girlfriend around freely. I was completely blindsided. I told her I wasn't cheating. She just kept yelling. I unlocked my phone and handed it to her. I told her to go through everything. I opened my laptop and told her to check whatever she wanted. I gave her my passwords for email and social media. I don't even have much social media. Just a Facebook I never use and a Reddit account for looking at programming forums. She wouldn't look at any of it. She just kept yelling. Then she grabbed my laptop off the table and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and the screen shattered. I stared at it for a second. That laptop had all my work files on it. I back up everything to the cloud, but still. I told her I was leaving. I grabbed my car keys and drove to my parents' house about 30 minutes away. My phone started blowing up before I even got there. Monica was texting and calling nonstop. The texts were all about the other woman. She wanted to know who she was, how long it had been going on, if I'd been planning to leave her. I didn't answer any of them. When I got to my parents' place, I called her once. I told her I needed a few days because I was too angry to have a rational conversation. She started yelling again, so I hung up. Then she called my younger sister, Rachel, about 5 times asking if I was really at our parents' house. Rachel was annoyed about being dragged into it. My dad thinks Monica's lost her mind. My mom thinks she's having a breakdown and we should work it out. Rachel thinks we're both being ridiculous. Lenora called me crying the next day. She said her mom had been texting her asking where I was and whether I'd said anything about another woman. I told Lenora to ignore it and that none of this was her fault. I stayed at my parents' house for 4 days. Then I called Monica. She answered right away. She apologized for throwing my laptop. She said she'd buy me a new one. I told her I didn't care about the laptop. I asked her what proof she had that I was cheating. She got quiet for a minute. Then she said she'd been calm because I didn't care about our marriage. I told her I was calm because I'd learned a long time ago not to yell during arguments. I have PTSD from my time in the military, and I'd spent years learning how to handle intense situations without losing control. She got angry again. She said I was making excuses and twisting her words. She said she still had proof. I told her to show me the proof or this conversation was over. She said she was going to send everything to her lawyer. I told her fine, send a copy to mine too. She went quiet and then hung up. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've been living at my parents' house. Monica's been texting me on and off. Sometimes the texts are angry and accusatory. Sometimes they're normal, like she's sending me a meme or a picture of our dog. It's like she forgets we're in the middle of a crisis. Lenora's been staying in her dorm more and coming home less. She says it's too stressful at the house with just her mom. I haven't cheated on Monica. I've never even thought about it. I work from home and spend most of my free time either working on side projects or playing video games with some online friends. I go to the grocery store and the gym. That's about it. I don't know where she got this idea. My mom suggested couples counseling, but I don't think that's going to help if Monica won't even tell me what proof she has. I've been married to this woman for 14 years. I raised her daughter. I don't understand how we got here. I'm supposed to go back to the house tomorrow to pick up more of my clothes and some work equipment. I don't know what I'm going to say to her if she's there. Update 1. Monica showed up at my parents' house last Thursday. My mom let her in before I knew she was there. I came downstairs and Monica was sitting at the kitchen table. She looked tired. She said she wanted to talk and show me the proof. The proof was her coworker. Apparently, this coworker had told Monica that she'd seen me having lunch with a much younger woman at the hospital cafeteria about 2 months ago. I was confused at first, and then I remembered. Lenora had texted me one day saying she was on campus near the hospital and asking if I wanted to grab lunch. I'd driven over and we'd eaten in the cafeteria because it was convenient. Lenora had needed to talk about possibly changing her major and wanted my advice without her mom around because Monica had strong opinions about it. I told Monica this. I pointed out that the woman her coworker saw was Lenora. Monica didn't say anything for a long time. Then she admitted she'd already known it was Lenora. The coworker had described her, and Monica had realized right away. I asked her why she'd accused me of cheating if she knew it was Lenora. She said the coworker, whose name is Sherry, had suggested maybe it was inappropriate anyway. She said Sherry had pointed out that Lenora and I weren't blood related and that Lenora was an adult now. I felt sick. I asked Monica if she seriously thought I was having some kind of relationship with my own daughter. She didn't answer directly. Instead, she started talking about how I'd always been too close to Lenora. She said it wasn't normal for a stepfather to be so involved. She brought up that Lenora called me dad and that I'd adopted her. She said Lenora was too comfortable around me and that maybe I'd encouraged it. I stood up and told her to leave. She started crying and saying she didn't mean it like that. She said Sherry had just gotten her thinking and now she couldn't stop. I asked her who Sherry was exactly, because the name sounded familiar but I couldn't place it. Monica admitted that Sherry was her first cousin. This was the part that made everything click into place. Monica grew up in a fundamentalist religious community. Her father was a pastor in one of those churches that operates more like a cult. When Monica was 19, her father tried to arrange a marriage for her to a man in his 40s who was a deacon in the church. Monica had refused and cut contact with her family. She'd moved out, worked her way through school, and built a new life. She'd told me all of this when we first started dating. She hadn't spoken to her father or anyone from that church in over 20 years. I asked her if she'd been talking to Sherry this whole time. She said no, but Sherry had reached out about a year ago through Facebook. Monica said she'd been curious and they'd started talking. Then they'd met up for coffee. Then Sherry started inviting her to church events. Monica admitted she'd been going to some of these events over the past 6 months when she'd told me she was working extra shifts or meeting friends. I asked her if she'd talked to her father. She said yes. She'd been on the phone with him regularly for about 4 months. She said he'd apologized for the past and wanted a relationship with her. She said she'd been going to church services twice a month. Then she started saying things that sounded like they'd come straight from her father. She said I was in my prime years for having children and that it was unnatural that we didn't have any biological kids. She said maybe I resented her for not being able to give me children and that's why I was looking elsewhere. I reminded her that we'd made the decision together not to pursue other options and that I'd been fine with it. She said men always want their own biological children and I was probably lying to make her feel better. Then she said something about my background. My father is Jewish, though not religious. My mom was raised Catholic but stopped practicing before I was born. Monica knew all of this. It had never been an issue. But now she was saying that I didn't have proper moral guidance because I wasn't raised in the church. She said my parents had failed me by not giving me a religious foundation. I asked her what any of this had to do with the cheating accusation. She said that Sherry had helped her see that I'd been trying to control her by suggesting she quit her job. She said a godly man would be a provider and wouldn't let his wife work outside the home. She said the fact that I'd suggested she quit proved I wasn't a real man because a real man would have insisted from the beginning. But also I was trying to isolate her by getting her to quit. None of it made sense. I told her she was contradicting herself. She got angry and said I was twisting her words again. Then she said that Lenora was partly to blame for this whole situation because Lenora had been dressing inappropriately and spending too much time around me. She said Lenora should have known better than to have lunch alone with me because it would look bad. I told her to get out of my parents' house. She started crying harder and saying I was abandoning her just like Sherry had warned. I walked out of the room and went upstairs. I heard my mom talking to Monica, and then I heard the front door close. I called a lawyer that afternoon. I'd been avoiding it because I kept thinking we could work this out, but after hearing her blame Lenora, I was done. Lenora called me that night. She was crying. She said Monica had called her and said some horrible things. Lenora wouldn't tell me exactly what was said, but she asked if she could come stay with me at my grandparents' place for a while. I told her yes immediately. She drove down that weekend and has been here since. Monica found out Lenora was staying here and sent me a long text about how I'd turned her daughter against her and now we were living together like I'd wanted all along. I didn't respond. The divorce papers are being drawn up. The lawyer said it would take a couple of weeks to get everything filed. I haven't told Monica yet, but she'll find out soon enough. Update 2. The divorce papers were served last Wednesday. Monica called me 7 times in a row. I ignored the first 6. I answered the 7th because I wanted to get it over with. She was yelling before I could even say hello. She accused me of turning Lenora against her. She said Lenora wouldn't return her calls or texts. I didn't respond to that. Then she switched gears and said the whole cheating thing wasn't that big of a deal and I should have just forgiven her. She said I was abandoning her when she needed me most. She said her father had been right that men from secular backgrounds didn't understand commitment. Then she told me she'd already started looking at dating apps because she needed to find a real man who would appreciate her. In the same conversation, she said I couldn't divorce her and that she was going to fight me on everything. She said I'd be sorry I'd done this. I hung up. She sent a text an hour later with a picture of our dog and asked if I wanted to come see him. Like the entire conversation hadn't just happened. My lawyer says this is going to be messy. Monica's already hired her own lawyer. Apparently, it's someone from the church. The lawyer sent a response to our petition that included a lot of religious language about the sanctity of marriage and accused me of abandonment. My lawyer says it's unusual but not illegal. I met with Monica once last week to go over practical things like the house and finances. We bought the house together 10 years ago. It's in both our names. I've been paying the mortgage from my salary, but she'd contributed to the down payment and to renovations. My lawyer advised me to try to come to an agreement outside of court if possible because it would be faster and cheaper. Monica spent the entire meeting alternating between crying and making accusations. She said I'd planned this from the beginning. She said I'd only married her to get access to Lenora. I sat there and didn't respond to any of it. My lawyer had told me not to engage. After an hour, Monica's lawyer suggested we table the discussion and try again in a few weeks. I went back to my parents' house and drank half a bottle of whiskey. I hadn't done that since my 20s. I woke up on the couch the next morning and felt terrible. My dad sat me down and asked if I was okay. I told him I didn't know who I'd been married to for the past 14 years. I asked him if he thought Monica had always felt this way and had just been hiding it. He said he didn't know, but it didn't matter now. Lenora came downstairs and made breakfast. She didn't mention her mom. She'd paused her classes for the semester. She said she couldn't focus. She's planning to go stay with her biological father in Australia for a couple of months. He'd reached out when he heard what was happening and offered to pay for her ticket. She's leaving next week. I told her that was good. She needed to get away from all of this. She asked me if I blamed her. I told her no. None of this was her fault. She nodded but didn't look convinced. I've started looking at apartments. My parents have been great, but I need my own space. I can't keep sleeping on their couch and eating my mom's cooking like I'm 25 again. The lawyer said the divorce would take months at minimum, maybe over a year if Monica keeps fighting. I can't live with my parents that whole time. Some mutual friends have started reaching out. Apparently, Monica told a few people that I'd cheated and left her. A couple of them believed her at first. Then Lenora posted something vague on social media about supporting family through hard times, and one of our friends put two and two together. Now everyone's asking what really happened. I haven't told most of them the details. It's too exhausting to explain. One friend, Marcus, came over last weekend with groceries. He said his wife had sent him with food because she was worried I wasn't eating. She'd sent casseroles and bread and homemade jam. It was nice. I'd forgotten what it was like to have people check on me. Monica had slowly cut me off from most of our friends over the past year. She'd always had an excuse for why we couldn't go to someone's party or why we shouldn't invite people over. I didn't notice it happening until it was done. I talked to Lenora about this. I asked her if her mom had been isolating her too. She admitted that Monica had been critical of her friends and had discouraged her from coming home as often. She said she'd thought it was just normal parent stuff, being overprotective or whatever. Now she wasn't sure. My boss has been understanding about everything. I've missed some deadlines and had to reschedule meetings. He told me to take whatever time I needed. I'm grateful for that. A lot of places wouldn't be so flexible. The divorce is moving forward. My lawyer filed all the paperwork. Monica's lawyer is filing motions to delay things, but my lawyer says that's expected. We'll have a hearing in about 6 weeks to discuss temporary orders for the house and finances. I'm trying to focus on what I can control. I'm looking at apartments. I'm trying to work. I'm making sure Lenora knows she can stay here as long as she needs. But mostly I'm just waiting for this to be over. Update 3. Lenora left for Australia 3 weeks ago. We set up video calls every Sunday. She seems better. Her dad has her staying at his place in Sydney, and she's been doing some traveling. She sent me pictures from the beach and from a hiking trip. She looks relaxed. I told her to stay as long as she wanted. The hearing happened 2 weeks ago. The judge issued temporary orders. I have to keep paying the mortgage until the house is sold or one of us buys the other out. Monica has to stay in the house and maintain it. We're splitting other expenses for now. The judge also ordered us to try mediation before the next hearing. My lawyer wasn't optimistic about mediation working, but it's required. Monica showed up to the hearing with her father. I hadn't seen him before, but I knew it was him based on how he looked at me. He's in his 70s, tall, with white hair and cold eyes. He sat behind Monica's lawyer and stared at me the entire time. After the hearing, he approached me in the hallway. He told me I was making a mistake and that Monica was a good woman who deserved better. He said I'd regret this decision. I didn't respond. My lawyer pulled me away. Monica sent me a text that night. It was a photo of our wedding day. No words, just the photo. I deleted it. I signed a lease on an apartment last week. It's small, just 1 bedroom, but it's mine. I moved in over the weekend. My dad helped me move my stuff from their house. I didn't have much. Most of my things are still at the house with Monica, and I don't want to deal with going back there to get them. The apartment is quiet. I bought a new desk and set up my computer. I've been working more now that I have space. My boss says my performance is back to normal. I'm glad. I need something to go right. Marcus and his wife, Jenny, invited me over for dinner last week. It was good to be around people who weren't involved in the divorce. They asked how I was doing, but they didn't push when I said I didn't want to talk about it. We played board games and I left around 10. Jenny sent me home with more food. I've been thinking about the friends I lost over the past year. I reached out to a few of them and explained what had happened. Some of them understood. Some didn't respond. One guy, Tom, said he'd noticed Monica had seemed different lately but didn't know how to bring it up. He apologized for not staying in touch. I told him it wasn't his fault. The mediation is scheduled for next month. My lawyer says we'll try to reach an agreement on the house and the rest of the assets. If we can't, we'll go back to court and let the judge decide. She says Monica's lawyer is pushing for more than Monica's entitled to, but that's normal in divorces. I haven't heard from Monica directly in over a week. Her lawyer sends emails about scheduling and paperwork, but Monica herself hasn't called or texted. I don't know if that's a good sign or a bad one. Lenora called last Sunday. She said she's thinking about staying in Australia longer, maybe finishing her degree there. Her dad has connections at a university in Sydney, and they have a good biology program. She asked if I'd be okay with that. I told her I'd miss her, but she should do what's best for her. She said she'd think about it. I'm not dating. A few people have suggested it, but I'm not ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. I spent 17 years with Monica. I raised Lenora. I thought I knew what my life was going to look like. Now I'm starting over at 46, living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment, waiting for a divorce to finalize. My mom keeps asking if I'm eating enough. My dad asks if I need anything. Rachel checks in every few days. They're trying to help, and I appreciate it. But there's not much anyone can do. This is just something I have to get through. The lawyer says the whole process could take another 6 to 12 months depending on how much Monica fights. I'm prepared for that. I've set up automatic payments for the mortgage and other bills. I've organized all my financial documents. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I saw Monica's car outside the grocery store last week. I waited in my car until she left. I didn't want to run into her. I don't know what I'd say. We're not those people anymore, the ones who met at a VA hospital and built a life together. I don't know who she is now, and I'm not sure she knows either. The apartment is quiet at night. I work during the day and watch TV or read in the evenings. On weekends, I go to my parents' house for dinner or meet up with Marcus and Jenny. It's a routine. It's not a bad routine. It's just different from what I had before. I don't know what happens after the divorce is final. I'll probably stay in this apartment for a while. Maybe I'll travel. Maybe I'll just keep working and living this quiet life. Lenora will figure out her own path, whether that's here or in Australia. Monica will do whatever she's going to do with her church and her father and her new life. Some things just end. There's nothing anyone can do about it. You just have to accept it and move forward. That's what I'm doing. Moving forward.